This must be it. Pretty out of the way. Mr. Blake?
Yes?
My name's Brent Halligan. I'm a detective from Scotland Yard. I have a few questions I need to ask you.
Scotland Yard? What's this about? Is something wrong?
I'd rather we discuss this in private. Do you mind if I come in?
I'm not sure. What's happened? Is there a problem with one of my publications?
No, sir. I'm investigating a murder case. Perhaps you could help me? It really won't take very long.
Murder? How awful. But what's it got to do with me?
Mr. Blake, I'd really prefer it if we could go somewhere a little more private. May I come in?
Well, yes, certainly. Come on in.
You're the author of a book on Druids, am I right?
Yes, quite correct. In fact, I'm just working on a revised version for the next edition. But what makes you so interested in my book?
I'm currently investigating a series of murders in London. I've made some interesting discoveries that I'd like to discuss with you.
What series of murders are we talking about?
The skeleton murders. You may have read about them in the papers.
Oh, yes. Of course. A terrible business.
Mr. Blake, I believe there may be some sort of ritual behind these murders.
Well, what makes you think that?
Dr. Turner from the Anthropological Museum in Oxford examined one of the last victim's bones for me. She found residual traces of gold on it, and round notches.
Round notches, you say?
Yes. Does that mean anything to you? Doesn't your book on Druids mention ritual killings, for which a golden sickle was used?
True. Are you saying these murders are based on the same ritual?
That's what I've come to ask you.
But that's impossible. It can't be true. It's... My God. It would be unthinkable. It would confirm all my translations. I've been researching the history of the Druids for 30 years now, but I've never yet found proof of my greatest fears.
Your greatest fears?
Yes, the perfection of the final ritual, the final confirmation of the Druids' power.
Tell me more about the Druids.
Well, the Druids were Celtic priests. They were highly respected scholars, responsible for preserving the Celtic religion and science. Their main tasks included conducting sacrificial rituals, medicine, astronomy, and justice. Experts now believe that Druidism began in ancient Britain and spread from there to the European continent, especially to Gaul. The first definite evidence of the Druids' existence goes back to 500 BC.
That's a long time ago.
Quite. And for at least 500 years from then on, the Druids were the most important class of Celtic society.
What happened then?
Well, with Britain and Gaul being conquered by the Romans, the Druids were quickly suppressed. Their doctrine was abolished and replaced by Roman tenets. In the end, Christianity took over. And by around 1000 AD, Druidism seems to have vanished.
What did the Druids and their followers believe in?
Well, that's not so very easy to explain. Like the Romans and the Greeks, the Celts had a number of gods to whom various functions were ascribed. They paid homage to these gods with rituals and sacrifices. Many of their cult rituals were performed for the stars and the four elements: fire, water, air, and earth. Their religious acts always took place in forests, usually in a clearing or at some other prominent location. The Druids didn't start building their temples until they had met the Romans.
What were their rituals like?
Well, they mainly made sacrifices on special occasions. Druids would burn plants and twigs to transfer them into the realm of the divine.
That doesn't sound so terrible.
No, but they also sacrificed animals. Mostly rams or pigs. Roman writers even mention cruel human sacrifices, crucifixions, decapitations, and regular slaughters on the altar.
What? Oh, that's horrific.
Not all of these stories are based on definite facts, Mr. Halligan.
I'd like to know more about the four elements.
The Druids regarded the four elements as the material of which the world is made. They invoked the elements and used them for their rituals. There were only three proper elements: air, water, and earth. Fire, the fourth element, existed solely for the purpose of transferring one of the three basic elements into another.
What do you mean?
Well, solids or liquids become gaseous through fire. Gas can be turned into liquid form with the help of fire. Take a mixture of hydrogen and oxygen, for example. Fire, therefore, represents transformation, the transferal of one element into a new condition.
That sounds pretty complicated.
I suppose it does when you first hear it, but it's actually quite simple.
Yes, well, that's what my colleague Chris Hecker always tries to tell me whenever he starts lecturing me about chemistry.
Quite right, Mr. Halligan. I shouldn't bore you with such details.
What's this final ritual all about?
This is the text I wrote down during my travels through England and France. You know, when you travel through the country, you can feel that many locals still believe in the old Celtic customs. A group of farmers in the south of England let me copy the inscriptions on a megalith that stands in a field there. They claim that there used to be a huge druid temple close to their house, but there's nothing left of it now. Whatever. I managed to translate the text, at least in part.
Okay, Mr. Blake, please come to the point. What does it say?
It says that the last of the Druids saw the fall of their priesthood coming in the year 1000 A.D. In the confusion surrounding the final destruction of the Order, a demonic superior Druid seized power, using his knowledge of Druid magic, not for the good of his people and to honor the gods, but to submit all of mankind to his rule. In order to secure the survival of the Druid's tradition, and to complete his devilish work, he organized a final ritual, transferring the knowledge and power of the last of the Druids to 5 infants. These infants have always been referred to as the inheritors.
Go on.
The inscription says that the ritual was not entirely completed. I've not yet been able to discover why. But from what I've learned, the inheritors are strong and powerful enough to one day complete the ritual by themselves.
What happened to the Druids after 1000 AD?
Well, that's a good question, Mr. Halligan. Scientists are still arguing on that point. Some suspect that many Druids simply became priests in the Christian church. After all, Christian priests took over the position in society that had formerly been reserved for the Druids. They simply changed their jobs.
And secretly continued their own religion?
That's not unlikely. They certainly influenced the Christian church. That we do know. Some experts believe that the Druids' order never ceased to exist. That's where the myth surrounding the final ritual comes in. It supposedly took place 1,000 years ago.
Right. But what have these murders got to do with the myth?
Well, that's just it, Mr. Halligan. I haven't told you the whole story yet.
There's more?
Yes. The inscriptions explain that the Druids' inheritors require the life force of other people to complete the ritual.
I see. And how do they do that?
According to legend, the flesh has to be cut off the bones of living humans and to be eaten. Only then can their life force be transferred.
You mean the victims of these skeleton murders were practically eaten alive by cannibals?
By Druids. Yes.
I don't believe it.
The worst is yet to come, Mr. Halligan.
What? What could possibly be worse than that?
If such skeletons have been found in London, bearing marks of a golden sickle, it can only mean one thing. The inheritors are preparing for the perfection of their final ritual.
Which means?
The myth says, once the ritual has been completed, the world will become a place governed by evil. Dark magic will be unleashed upon the world, and mankind will have but one choice, to obey or to die.
Great. And you really believe all that?
I believe it's possible. You know, Mr. Halligan, I'm not a superstitious man, but I've spent enough time studying Druidism to know that more goes on between heaven and earth than we can possibly imagine.
I quite agree.
You see, and the skeletons that have been found within the past few months fit in perfectly with the Druids' sacrificial rites. The day of the ritual's perfection is drawing near. Of that I'm certain. What we're looking at right now is just the beginning. Before we're through, more people will die, and the inheritors will soon be strong enough.
What can we do about it?
Time is running out, Mr. Halligan. You must find the inheritors and put them out of action.
That's an easy thing to say, but how can I?
There may be a way. During my latest research, I came across something very interesting. If the story I've heard is true, Then there's a certain item that was extremely important for the ritual 1,000 years ago.
What is it?
A piece of jewelry mentioned in the old inscriptions. The Amulet of Transformation. You should try to gain possession of that amulet.
The Amulet of Transformation? What's its purpose?
I don't know, Mr. Halligan. Nobody does. All I do know is that the myth says it's important for the completion of the ritual. If you find the amulet, you may be able to prevent the ritual.
How did you find out about the amulet?
My work led to the discovery of a connection between the Druids of Gaul and Britain. It seems there was a small group of British Druids who fled to France when the ritual failed.
What for?
I don't know. Maybe they wanted to save the amulet. I found out that a 13th century despotic French nobleman somehow gained possession of the amulet. I found a picture of him in an old archive.
Really? Let me see. Well, he doesn't look particularly friendly. Was he a druid?
Well, he must have had something to do with the Druids, but I really can't tell you how he gained possession of the amulet. However, he is the only clue that I can possibly give you as to the whereabouts of the amulet. I suggest that you make your way to Carmore. With any luck, you may find more clues leading to the amulet there.
All right, Mr. Blake. I'll get going immediately.
Take care of yourself, Mr. Halligan. Good luck. Well, what can I do for you? You can ask me anything you want.
Tell me, Mr. Blake, why are you in a wheelchair?
Oh, that's a sad story. I was attacked a few years back.
Attacked? Who by?
I don't know. It was after an autograph session for my first book about the Druids. A group of men were lying in wait for me and beat me up.
Why? Had you had a disagreement with someone?
No, not that I know of. They just beat me up. Without warning, and without saying a single word. Then they left me lying there. Calm as anything. They just strolled away.
That's terrible. Who could they have been? Do you know what they looked like?
They were dressed all in black and wearing dark sunglasses. That's all I remember. It all happened so fast.
And you've been in a wheelchair ever since?
Yes. I can't drive anymore, and I find my work very strenuous. I'll be grateful if I ever manage to finish my new book.
Thank you, Mr. Blake. That's all for now.
You're welcome, Mr. Halligan. Good luck.
Hello, Captain.
Bonjour.
Do you know the castle of Carmore? I say.
I might.
Well, do you know the castle or don't you? You're not being very talkative.
No.
Oh, well, thanks for the conversation.
You're welcome.
Good day to you, monsieur.
Shush, 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 silence.
Tell me, my good man, which way is the castle?
Castle? Oh, you mean the burnt-down mound of rubble on the outskirts of the village, I suppose?
Yes, that's it.
What do you want to go there for? There's nothing to see there.
I just want to take a look around. So, which way do I go?
Oh, that's simple. Just follow the road through the village, past the crossroads, and straight ahead. Keep going for about 3 kilometers, then you can't miss it.
So the castle burnt down, did it?
Yes, that's right. I think it happened in some war or other, or during the Inquisition, but that was hundreds of years ago.
What do you know about the castle?
Not much. It's supposed to have belonged to a rich family around here many centuries ago. As a child, I used to play in the ruins with my friends, but it's not really safe to go walking around in the rubble.
Why is that?
It's in danger of collapsing, my friend. Anyway, it's pretty creepy out there, especially in the cemetery. There's not much left of the castle nowadays. Local farmers use the ruin as a quarry when they need stones for their houses. There's just a few bits of rubble left, that's all.
Have you ever heard of the Lord of the Castle of Carmore?
Yes, of course. My parents used to tell me about him in order to scare me when I wouldn't go to bed. For the children of Carmore, the Lord was a kind of bogeyman, you know. Our parents used to tell us horror stories about him.
What did they say?
That villagers used to vanish, that the Lord would catch and kill little children. They told me, "Pierre, sleep now, or the Lord will come and get you." I remember it as if it had been yesterday.
What did people believe would happen if the Lord came to get you?
You'd be killed and fed to the Lord's hounds. At least, that's what my parents told me.
That's not much of a bedtime story to tell a small boy.
True, but it worked. We kept away from the castle after dark, believe me.
Was the Lord such an evil character then?
Oh, yes, so I've heard. They say he murdered his entire family, not to mention half the household. He was a madman, but I don't remember many details of the old stories.
Have you ever been to the castle as an adult?
Yes, a couple of times. We needed stones for our new stable, but I don't mind telling you, I wasn't too happy out there.
I have to go. Good luck with your fishing.
Thank you, thank you.
This must be the castle. Or rather what's left of it. Pretty creepy. Looks like this used to be a tower, but it's collapsed. The ceiling of the tower has caved in. Hello, I'm back.
Damn quiet, I said. Are you trying to frighten the fish off?
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot. I was miles away. I've had a look round the area. I've been to the ruin.
And? What do you think of our little village?
It's nice. But I've got a few more questions regarding our last talk.
Oh? Well, go ahead and ask, but please...
Quietly. Right?
Precisely, my friend. You learn quickly.
I'd like to speak to you about fishing.
What would you like to know?
I like your fishing rod. It's a beauty.
Yes, nice, isn't it? It's an enhanced fiberglass telescope ultralight 47. The latest model.
Could you give me one of your fish?
On a normal day, I would, but I just haven't been able to catch enough today.
How many fish have you caught?
Not a single one, my friend.
That's not a lot.
Yeah, precisely. I must try to catch some now, otherwise I will have nothing to offer this evening.
You're planning to sell the fish?
No, no. I have visitors coming this evening, you understand?
I see. I suppose there's nothing doing then.
Sorry. Why don't you just buy a fishing rod of your own and come and join me? Who knows, if you're nice and quiet, you may be lucky.
Do you mind if I hold your fishing rod for a while?
Sorry, my friend. It was very expensive. I spent 800 francs on it, and I'm not going to let anyone else touch it.
What are you planning to catch?
You may not believe me, but I've caught all kinds of things here. You know, I've caught pike 5 meters long, with eyes like plates and razor-sharp teeth. That's why I bought this rod. The last one was pulled clean out of my hands by one of those beasts.
Do you expect me to believe that?
Of course, it's the truth. I swear it. I even had some photos of one of those fish, but I'm afraid I lost them. They fell into the water, right here.
And now there's not a shred of evidence to support your story. That is a pity.
Don't you believe me? Ask Capitaine Deneuve. He will confirm it. I often show him the fish that I catch.
Capitaine Deneuve? Who's that?
Oh, you don't know him? He captains the ferry that brought you here. He's over there, on board. He's experienced a lot and has been all over the place. He knows a lot of stories. Incredible stories.
Oh? Like what, for example?
You'll have to ask him that yourself. I never really listen properly when he starts spinning his yarns. He's bound to tell you a story or two. You just have to know how to deal with him.
How to deal with him? What do you mean?
Not so loud, please.
Because of the fish?
No, because of Capitaine Deneuve. He might hear us.
And?
Look, I'll tell you something. Deneuve's a bit strange. He insists on being addressed by his title. It's how do you call it? A peculiarity of his.
Oh? Why is that?
He's an old sea dog from a real old seafaring family. Some ancestor of his served in Napoleon's fleet. He himself used to go out to sea doing the real thing. Got a master's certificate and all that. Seen the world, so he says. These days he just captains the ferry. But he still insists on people using his title. He says his rank should still command people's respect.
Oh, well, if that's all, I don't mind. What do I have to call him, then?
Monsieur le Capitaine Charles Deneuve. That's his full title. He'll appreciate that.
Got it. Thanks for the hint. I have to go. Good luck with your fishing.
Thank you, thank you.
Excuse me.
What?
You're Monsieur le Capitaine Charles Deneuve, aren't you?
Yes, that is correct, my boy. Charles Deneuve, Capitaine of the Merchant Navy of France. How do you know my name?
I've been talking to a friend of yours, the fisherman over there at the jetty.
Pierre? Ah, yes, old Pierre. I expect he has been telling you about his pike, the one that was 5 meters long.
Yes, he did. Pierre says you're from Carmore, like he is. Is that true?
Yes, that's right. I grew up here. As a youngster, I wanted to be a fisherman and used to work on my father's trawler. Later, I went to naval college to become a captain of the Merchant Navy of France. I have a small house at the end of the road, just behind Francois' Bistro.
You used to work for the Merchant Navy?
Yes. I have been to practically every single port all over the world, from New York to Zanzibar, from Rotterdam to Cape Town. I have sailed all known and unknown oceans, rivers, backwaters, lakes, and canals. I have seen things no other man on earth has ever seen.
Sounds exciting.
Yes, but all that was a long time ago. In a few years' time, I shall retire and begin working on my memoirs.
Your memoirs? That sounds interesting.
Oh, yes, my boy. I've seen a lot, you know. Disasters, storm tides, elements, mysteries.
Really? Won't you tell me more?
I have seen ships disappear in the Bermuda Triangle. I saw the Prince of Egypt sink. I witnessed the accident of the Pride of Paris in Cape Town Harbor.
You were in all those places?
Of course. And that's not all. I have seen tsunamis 40 meters high and octopuses with 16 tentacles.
I thought octopuses only had 8 tentacles.
Quite, my boy, quite. I have seen things a common landlubber, no offense, my boy, cannot even begin to imagine. Octopuses with twice the normal number of tentacles. What do you say to that?
Well, that's quite incredible. What do you know about the Castle of Carmore?
The castle? The castle is shrouded in greater mystery than the darkest secrets I have ever experienced or heard of.
That's saying something.
Precisely, my boy. After all, I have seen and heard more than most mortals could ever dream of. But none of it is as mysterious as the story of the Castle of Carmore and its evil owner.
Tell me more about the castle.
The Castle of Carmore was once the home of a good and righteous lord. Around 1000 A.D., the Druids came there. You've heard of the Druids, I take it?
Oh, yes. Quite a lot, in fact. Go on. Where did these Druids come from?
They were the last of the Druids from Britain.
Really?
Yes, really, my boy.
Do you know why they came to the castle?
They entrusted the Lord and his family with the safekeeping of something of great value to them.
What was it?
Nobody ever found out, my boy.
All right, what happened then?
The item remained in the family's possession for generations. But then the castle went to a descendant of the family who was not good and righteous, but cruel and mean, the evil Lord of Carmore.
Was that what he was called?
That's what he has been called for centuries. He was a tyrant and a murderer. He enjoyed killing and held satanic ceremonies at the castle. Villagers would disappear from Carmore and never be seen again. They say he was executed during the Inquisition.
do you mean, they say? Was he or wasn't he?
No. I know the true story. The castle was destroyed before the Inquisition ever began.
But how?
The truth was told in a very old Breton legend.
And?
One day, a salt seller by the name of Gergan came to the castle of Carmore and asked the evil lord for a drink of water. But the lord set his dogs on the man.
Go on.
Out of revenge for the lord's cruelty, Gergan hurled a handful of salt at the castle, which tumbled down immediately, burying the lord beneath it.
But why?
It was an ancient druid curse.
How can salt destroy a whole castle?
Through the magic of the druids. Salt is a destructive element. It corrodes, it decomposes, it parches. It can make people die of thirst.
The salt seller had knowledge of druid customs?
Well, he certainly knew how to use the magic that druids employed to deal with their enemies.
So the evil lord died?
Yes. He's buried in the mausoleum in the castle cemetery.
How do you know all this?
From age-old stories that people tell around here. Children heard them from their parents, who in turn had been told them by their own parents. They were handed down through the generations. Sometimes, people even come here from town. People like you, asking about the old stories. Writers, researchers, all sorts. We even had a real aristocrat here from England once. He was very interested in the castle.
What did the man want?
He said he'd lost something out at the ruin. A necklace, a family heirloom. It seems to have been very important to him. The 5 of them spent days searching the ruins.
5?
Yes, there were 5 of them. They rented rooms above the bistro. 5 bigwigs in smart suits. One even had a uniform on.
Did they find the necklace?
No, I don't think so. They left after a couple of days.
Interesting. Do you know his name?
No, I've forgotten. It was quite a while ago.
Thank you, Monsieur le Capitaine. You've been a great help.
You're welcome, my boy.
That's salt. Excuse me, Pierre.
Yes? Now what?
I'd like to ask you something about Capitaine Deneuve.
Have you spoken to him?
Yes, I have. And you were right. He's a very strange man. Can you really believe everything he says?
Well, I'm not sure, quite honestly. He's a sailor, and they're always full of stories. 50 years at sea are a long time. Enough time to experience a great deal, and for a lot of things to become a bit muddled up in one's mind.
He certainly seems to say some strange things.
I don't think all his stories are true, but there's a core of truth in many of them. You'll have to make up your own mind which of his stories to believe.
Is he a friend of yours?
Friend? Well, I've seen him almost every day for a number of years. He captains the ferry, I do my fishing. When he's finished for the day, we sometimes go over to the bistro for a glass of pastis. Yes, now I come to think of it, I suppose we are friends.
And you get on well with each other? I should think it's pretty difficult being friends with a man like him.
Oh, we get on rather well, really. We don't talk much, you know. If anything, he does the talking, spins his yarns. The only thing about him that sometimes drives me crazy is his damned cat.
The captain has a cat?
Yes. He lets her out here on the jetty in the morning and takes her back in at night. And the damned beast spends all day slinking around here.
You don't like cats?
I hate cats. They steal the fish from my bucket or get tangled up in my fishing line. Deneuve's creature has often knocked my bucket of bait over, and I've had to go and get some more. I've told him hundreds of times to take the animal on the ferry with him, but he just won't do it.
Why does he only captain a small ferry nowadays?
He used to command a large merchant ship, but then he was dismissed. I think it was because he drank. He missed Cape Town harbour in the fog.
That could have happened to anyone, drink or no drink.
Yes, but it so happens that with him, it was drink. He was actually seeing double. In the fog, he saw the shadowy outlines of 2 bays and ordered his helmsman to set course for the one on the right.
And that was the wrong one?
Exactly. There was no right-hand bay. The port had one bay, not two. But you'd better keep that to yourself. He gets pretty embarrassed if anyone mentions it.
I understand. Okay. Thank you for your assistance.
No problem. You're welcome.
A de chevaux. Probably the fisherman's. Car Moor. A picturesque little place. I take it these drums contain fuel. Captain Deneuve's cat. A rather stubborn beast, and on top of that it has fleas as well.
There! Did you see that? Did you see that? It's that damn cat again. She's knocked all my bait in the water. That's the third time this week.
Calm down. You can always get some new baits.
What about my fishing tackle? What about my telescope ultralight 47 for 800 francs? I can't leave it here unguarded. It could be stolen. I'll have to take everything with me, just because of that damned cat.
Don't worry, Pierre. I'll keep an eye on your things.
Would you?
Of course. No problem.
Thank you, my friend. Then I'll go right now.
Pierre's fishing rod. A telescope ultralight 47, if I'm not mistaken. That's Pierre's bucket. It's empty. Now the bucket's hanging from the fishing rod. These are huge lumps of salt. Iron gate. It's locked. My case file. A gravestone, pretty weather-beaten. There's a hollow at the top. That's the bone from Epping Forest, wrapped up just the way it should be. mausoleum. I expect the lord of the castle's buried in there. It's gigantic. The mausoleum is practically a castle itself. The door's walled up. That's salt. Almost as fine-grained as dust. It seems to have worked. This must be the amulet. I found it. That's the Amulet of Transformation. I'd really like to know why it's called that. Monsieur le Capitaine,
What can I do for you?
when are you leaving for Portsmouth?
In 2 hours. Are you coming?
Yes.
Then come aboard.
Hold on. I think I'd better leave the amulet in the cabin. I might lose it otherwise, or it might be stolen. But where can I put it? My spare suit, just in case. That's my hold-all. It's too early to pack. We won't be arriving yet. Hey, this flap opens up. That won't help either. A perfect hiding place for the amulet. No one will find it there. I think I'll go and get some fresh air. God, what's been going on here? Someone's broken into my cabin and searched through all my things. Whoever did this made a thorough job of it. The amulet. Where's the amulet? It's been stolen. I don't believe it. Blast it. The thief must still be on board, but we're pulling into the harbor. I'll never catch him now. Hello, Mr. Blake. I'm back.
And? Did you find the amulet?
That's a long story.
Well, go on then. I can't wait to hear what happened.
I found the amulet. It was walled up in the Lord's mausoleum.
Really? It really does exist then. And you've got it. Show me.
Well, I did have it, but it was stolen from me.
Stolen? How did that happen?
No idea. I hid it in my cabin during the crossing. Someone broke in and rummaged through all my luggage.
Was anything else missing?
No, not a thing.
Someone must have been following you.
I didn't notice anyone. Who could have known I'd been looking for an amulet in that godforsaken dump?
Certain people may be taking a great interest in your investigations, Mr. Halligan. Do not underestimate the power of the Druids.
Oh, I don't know. Perhaps it was just a case of ordinary petty theft.
I very much doubt it, Mr. Halligan. Nobody else knew of our conversation. You were followed. And now the amulet has fallen into the wrong hands. Now nothing can stop the perfection of the ritual.
Mr. Blake, are you saying the Druids stole the amulet? That's absurd.
The amulet is vital to the perfection of their ritual. Believe me, we're not the only ones with a particular interest in the amulet. The Druids are after it just as much.
I thought the Druids ceased to exist 1,000 years ago.
It seems there are still some left after all, just as I suspected. They are among us now. They never left us in the first place.
I haven't met anyone who looked like a Druid so far.
No, Mr. Halligan. You won't recognize the inheritors by their cloaks and sickles. They're people, just like you and me. They could be powerful industrialists, high-ranking politicians, or influential military men. People in key positions of society.
What can I do then? I can't possibly check up on the entire upper class of British society looking for a couple of Druids.
No, but it may be worth your while to keep an eye on groups of neo-Druids. If anyone tries to justify their claims to the Druids' inheritance, they will.
Neo-Druids? What are they?
There are a number of groups around claiming to be the Druids' rightful successors. They're organized in orders, like Templars or Freemasons.
What do these groups do?
Oh, most of them are just harmless societies who still adhere to the Druids' customs and try to adapt the spiritual ideal of Druidism to the modern age. They're quite public societies and are always trying to find new members for their cause.
Tell me more about these Neo-Druids.
Like I said, the Neo-Druids try to live their lives according to ancient Druid ideals. Some of them do a lot of charitable work as well. But there are some really dubious associations going around, combining the Druids' customs with occult rites. Rumors say that there is such a sect at large somewhere in London.
In London, you said? Do you know where I might find these people?
I've no idea. All I know is that the only people who know anything about the Order refer to it as the Circle.
Thank you, Mr. Blake. I'll see what I can make of it.
Good. If you have any more questions, don't hesitate to call on me anytime you like.
One more thing, Mr. Blake.
Yes?
I get the impression this business could get pretty dangerous from now on.
Yes. Very likely, Mr. Halligan.
It may be safer for both of us if we let someone else in on the matter. Please call Melanie Turner in Oxford and tell her the whole story. Make sure she learns everything you've told me. She works at the Anthropological Museum. Her number's in the phone book. And tell her I'll get in touch with her myself as soon as possible. Would you do that for me?
Of course, Mr. Halligan. Good luck.